So, continuing the review and the summary of Way of the Wolf, Jordan Belfort's book about sales. If you remember from the last video, I'll leave the playlist link in the description. In the last video, I told you about how you must make your prospect customer more certain in order to close the sale. And there are two types of certainty: logical certainty, which you raise with your words, and emotional certainty, which you increase with your tonality, body language, and your general presentation of yourself. So I'm going to go on to tell you how Jordan teaches how to come across as a person worth listening to, and why tonalities are so important. So the first impression that you make on someone, it's very important. There's a lot of studies and books about this. We judge others in a blink of an eye. So apparently science says we have 5 seconds to form a first impression of someone. So on those first 5 seconds, you have to come across as sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert on your field. Because otherwise, why would anyone waste time listening to your sales pitch, right? We all hate sales pitches thrown at us. So if we don't have that coming from the person talking to us, it's already a no, right? So those three things must come across in the first 5 seconds. And why those specific things? First, sharp as a tack, because you want your prospect to know that you are on the ball, you can solve his or her specific problem, and that you're not just giving a prepackaged presentation to a random person. You are smart, you are listening, and you are adapting to that person and checking how you can solve their problems. So you must come across as very smart and enthusiastic. Why? Because you have a fucking great product. If you have a fucking great product to sell, wouldn't you not be enthusiastic about it? If you have a great idea, doesn't it pump you up? Sorry about my English. And why come across as an expert? I think it's pretty obvious that we all prefer to talk to experts. We trust experts, so you must come across as that. And you come across as experts, like not talking a lot of technical jargon. You can talk about technical stuff, but you must be someone who knows how to teach all that complicated stuff in a simple way, because you are an expert. You know how to explain things, you know how to present things in the best way possible. And if you come across having those three characteristics, you are someone worth listening to. And that's the foot on the door, right? The person you're talking to will be more willing to listen to you. But still, you have your whole sales pitch to go through, so you cannot drop the ball. The next step to move the needle on the certainty scale, the emotional certainty scale of your prospect, is to be very mindful of your body language and the tonality you use, especially if you're on the phone. Body language is pretty obvious. You want to, you don't want to hunch over and be closed off, cross your arms. You want to be at a reasonable distance. You want to, chest out. All those things we all know about, right? So you have to be mindful of that. More important, and one of the core ideas in this book, is the tonalities. And Jordan talks about 10 tonalities, but there are three of those that are the most important, and they come across in the text more often, and which are the absolute certainty tonality, the utter sincerity, and the reasonable man. So how does those three work? Absolute certainty, of course, is like you're seeing an expert talk. So an expert is absolutely certain of what he's talking about. You're talking with confidence, you're talking loudly, you're not mumbling your words, and you have space between the words, because each word you say is important, and you have the right, you give yourself permission to say those words because they are important, and your prospect must listen to them. From there, you can move to the utter sincerity tonality, which is almost like you're telling a secret. You slow down a bit, you go down in tone a little bit. And that is used when you want to you want that well, the idea that you want to come across is that you care about the client. You're not just selling a random product to a random person. You actually care about it. You want to solve his or her problems. And that's when utter sincerity comes in. And the final tonality that's very important is the reasonable man, as he calls it, which is when you are closing the deal. It's more like a laid back attitude. You can even go high in pitch a little bit. It's more like showing an idea, like, oh, sounds reasonable, right? And that's the sentence he uses the most. Make sense? Is that reasonable? That idea. So I'll use a phrase from the book, a sentence from the book, where the three tonalities are used. And it goes kind of like this. Let's say I'm selling to John. John, this is the best product in the market right now. It has the best specifications, and you're not going to regret it. The only regret you're going to have is that you didn't buy this earlier from me. So does that make sense? It sound good enough? Let's make a deal. If I did this right, I started with certainty about the product, and then I became a little more intimate, saying that this is a really good product and the person is not going to regret it. And in the end, it's just like, oh, you want to buy it? Makes sense. So he talks about this tonalities. Of course, I'm not an expert in that. I recommend you watch Jordan Belfort himself giving a presentation, and he goes through these tonalities. Of course, most of the time he's in absolute certainty. He's a very confident guy, but he shows these tonalities with more nuance. It's a very cool thing to learn because most of the time we are not even aware how monotone we are when we're speaking. And it's very fucking important that we change up a little bit the way we talk. But that's because that's how most of the communication comes across. It is not by our words, but on the way we present ourselves and the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we stand. Those are very important. And I think that's an idea that is very reasonable, right? I hope you can use this in your life. I hope you can start seeing this in your life, especially when people are selling to you. It's really fun to see people selling to me now because I know what's going on behind the curtain. And I hope this was at least entertaining, but useful. So see you next time. Playlist link in the description.